Welcome back to Strange Form. Today we are going to be looking at two versions of the same character, KIER, First Sword of Death, and KIER, Shadow of Heaven. Both part of the Court of the Dead collaboration between Sideshow Collectibles and TBLeague. Like Gethsemane, the cardboard box contains both the art box for the doll and the plain styrofoam package, which houses the stand. The cover has a slightly raised graphic with metallic writing and the character portrait on the back. Though I have said it before, TBLeague does put a lot of effort into their packaging. The box cover is a dual magnetic flap design. Inside, we are met with the instruction and care manual, which is worth reading for no other reason than to see where all of the joints are located. Underneath the foam cover is the snugly packaged KIER figure, her skull mask, her shoulder armor, burning Etheria skull, and of course her pretty little head. The Etheria skull has incredible paint application and weathering. There are 5 holes sculpted into the forehead, which the fingers of one of her extra hand accessories can fit snugly into like a bowling ball. The head is beautifully sculpted and has quite a bit of detail in the tiny hair accessories, as well as the color variation in the hair itself, even in the braids. The skull mask, which has sort of a flat paint application that makes it look like bone, as well as a lot of weathering and washing to bring out the fine details in the sculpt. There is also a clever gimmick which I will show you later. The shoulder armor, which has a fair amount of fine detail as well, and subtle paint applications. The figure itself is not a simple stock TBLeague body, as it has been cast in the blue coloring rather than painted. The arms and legs have pretty much been dyed red, so nothing feels like it's going to flake or crack too much when posing. The loincloth and cape strings are a little bit unruly though, and you might want to trim them down to size. On the second layer we have her accessories and extra hands and feet. She has 2 separate tiptoe feet, 2 very detailed shin guards, 2 side shoulder guards, which are a bit of a pain in the ass to put on, but at the very least they have snap buttons on the armband so that when the armor inevitably pops off when you're trying to shimmy it up her bicep, you can simply snap it back on when you get the band to the point that you want it. If this was not designed to fail like this, I guarantee you it would break while you were trying to place it. 2 different bracelets, which nicely hide the seam where the wrist meets the hand, and an optional forearm gauntlet with a huge backward swept blade. An armband jewelry piece, a right claw hand, a left claw hand, a right semi-open hand, and a left semi-open hand. And on the final level, we have a cape, which has a bendy wire running all the way around, as well as quite a bit of weathering, which I appreciate, and a blood-spattered bone design on the inside. Last, but certainly not least, is the longsword. Actually, looking at this next to her, I think it's probably classified as a great sword. Inside the plain foam packaging is the large base, but unfortunately no doll stand, which is odd because a bendy wire support comes with the other 2 figures. Not including the main doll and head, there are 19 other accessories in the box, which in all honesty is a lot of bang for your buck, considering how close this thing looks when compared to her quarter-scale statue. Now let's look at her counterpart. If you're familiar with the Court of the Dead lore, KIER was originally an angel, with a twin sister who inadvertently stole a lot of KIER's essence during their creation. Nonetheless, KIER was a dutiful soldier of heaven. But like most sibling relationships go, eventually KIER had a falling out with her sister and had her wings ripped off for her trouble. A lowly spirit, not desired by heaven or hell, her talents eventually came under the watchful eye of death, who had her remade as a soldier in the clandestine army he was building. I'm not going to go through the full unboxing again, as she is near identical to her underworld counterpart, lest a very different head sculpt different paint applications, and of course no skull mask. In the alternate styrofoam box, though, is the stand, which has bone-like claw hand attachments and a rigid bendy wire so that you can display her in flight. The bendy wire is a must because the figure cannot stand on her own. She is one of TBLeague's bodies with the attached feet, which I will go into in just a moment. Also in the box are 2 sets of wings, fully spread and partially collapsed. With everything out of the box, this version also comes with 19 accessories. As you can see, in this initial pose, they also put bendy wire in her loincloth, allowing for you to create the illusion of fabric movement. The first Sword of Death looks perfectly at home on her base, and the head sculpt is so good that it's hard to decide whether you want to display her with the mask on or off. The figures nicely complement each other, lending themselves to quite a bit of yin-yang posing and visual storytelling, as these are not simply just a slapdash change in paint schemes / money grab, but rather 2 truly different takes on the character. As you may have seen in one of my other videos, I was disappointed with the execution of Malabestros, but not disappointed with the fact that they made him in the first place. I would like to applaud Sideshow for moving this line into the 1/6 scale realm, and want to encourage them to keep going. I don't know if Sideshow is holding TBLeague's children captive, or if TBLeague just wants to impress with their first major Court of the Dead outing, but the paint applications on all 3 figures are so good that I want to ask other companies why they can't achieve this for the $150 to $185 range. I don't know if this is true with everyone's figure, or maybe mine was just packaged during the pandemic, when everybody was using a lot of hand sanitizer, but my figure's cape smells heavily of some sort of fragrance, almost like incense. So much so that I had to air out the work area after the shoot. Although these figures are extremely easy to get into just about any dynamic pose, I do have one word of warning. Angelic KIER's wings are extremely fragile. After pegging them into her back just once, the first time I went to remove them, one of the attachment pegs came off in her back support post, forcing me to engineer a new attachment method, and in doing so, I decided to make it possible to display both sets of wings, Sephiroth style. So if you don't want to be engineering your own solution, please ease those pegs in and out with the delicacy of building a house of cards. My solution did allow me a much easier swap out of the wings, so no harm, no foul. And while I was engineering that solution, I also decided to replace the loincloth and cape strings, instead giving her gold chains for both. Up close, angelic KIER's armor has the iridescence of a seashell, which is a nice juxtaposition to the earthy bronze of the other figure. I did, however, have to trim some of the fringe at the top portion of the loincloth, as it made her look like she had about the most out-of-control medieval bush you can imagine. Don't know what I'm referencing? Check out Stephen Lynch. The wings look good, and in most light have similar iridescence to the armor. One more issue you might find with the angelic version of KIER is that she has attached feet, and there isn't any support structure in her ankles. Her feet are made of the same soft material as the rest of her body, so she absolutely has to be displayed with a stand. In regard to the first Sword of Death, from the weathered bronze to the jagged stone, everything looks good in just about any light. My only gripe is that if they were going to paint the upper teeth of the skull mask, I wish they would have followed suit with the dangling jawbone teeth, but it still looks good enough. And though the head and body are 2 different materials, they were able to match the paint correctly, so there's no color difference between where the head meets the neck. As I said before, there is a gimmick with attaching the skull mask. There is a magnet hidden inside of her forehead, and another inside the mask, which allows for you to attach it simply by placing it on her head. I know, you're speechless. I am too. Magnets. They're magic. The bronze has about 3 different tones painted into it, and the blood staining on the forearm, hands, calves, and feet are a nice gradual gradation from bright red to almost purple, though I do think that this effect was done slightly better on the Pure Art statue, as they managed a very wet-looking gradient against her normally flat blue painted skin. But I think that this effect would probably have been impossible on the TBLeague body. From the accessories to the stand, I think that this is an amazing, posable 1/6 trade-off to the quarter scale counterpart. And again, I would definitely like to have a whole line in this caliber and size. This brings me to my one major complaint. I really do wish that they had given KIER the first Sword of Death a bendy stand like the others, as I actually had to swap stands several times to get her to do a full rotation on the turntable. All in all, these are a great value if you want to collect Court of the Dead figures in 1/6 scale. I don't see any reason for any other company to produce either KIER or Gethsemane from here on out. After 3-0 finally releases the giant Reaper General, I hope they get to work on Death, Xyle, or maybe even Cleopsis. I hope you enjoyed this double episode of Strange Form, and will help this channel grow by hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting, and as always, remember, never stop collecting.